Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Twisted Six Outdoors Chasin Tail. If you've been following along on any of the other episodes in the series, you would know that we've been working really hard here in Missouri, and also the pro staff in Illinois has been working hard to get some film for you guys and some deer on the ground. In the meantime, personally, I had the opportunity to go on an elk hunt in Colorado, and so for this week's episode, I thought I would share with you guys how that went down. Twisted Six Outdoors is brought to you by Darton Archery, Extreme Bowstrings, Horny Buck Seed Company, Knockout Lighted Knocks, Thunderstruck Custom Calls, Cook's Fatal Attraction Deer Scents, Whack-'em Archery, and Scent Crusher. So just a little backstory on the elk hunting that we've done. Me, my dad, my granddad, my uncle, and my cousin have been going up to Colorado for a few years now on elk hunts. I personally have gone for 4 years now. I started going when I was a freshman in high school. Obviously my dad and granddad and uncle have been going for quite a while longer, but I've had the opportunity and the privilege to join along with them and go on a few hunts over the past few years. Me and my dad live here in Missouri, but my granddad, uncle, and cousin all are Colorado residents. And so they get in-state tags, and that's how we got the in on the decision of going to Colorado to start elk hunting. Elk hunting is something that I look forward to every single year. I can bond with my family, spend time in the great outdoors, really get close to God and view nature. I've been extremely blessed to grow up in a family that's really big into hunting and outdoors. Fishing and hunting animals such as deer, antelope, moose, and elk. Really or a good majority of the large game in North America, my family has grown up hunting. And it's just been a blessing of mine to grow up in a family that's really big into that, because it's such a great sport and it's such a great thing to do. It's such a great passing time. I absolutely love hunting, and so the fact that God placed me in this family so that I can enjoy my time hunting is just absolutely awesome. In preparation for the elk hunt, we started by applying many months ahead of time. In the specific unit we were deciding to hunt in, we had to apply for limited draw tags because we were out of state. The only thing we could hunt was a cow, and while my uncle, my cousin, and my granddad were in state, they could just buy over-the-counter bull tags. After applying for tags, I began to brainstorm on what rifle I might want to take. For the past 3 years, I've been taking my Remington 700 chambered in 300 Win Mag. And as you can see, this thing is huge. It weighs just under 15 pounds. It's got a 3.5 to 21 power scope. And for walking around in the brush, this is pretty heavy, and it's got a pretty big magnification on the scope. And so it just wasn't ideal for elk hunting, although it was a tack driver, very accurate. For the application and elk hunting that we were doing, it wasn't the best option. And so I started saving up my money and thinking about what other guns I might want to get. And I really love the 300 Win Mag caliber for elk hunting. And so I couldn't just have one gun, I had to buy another. This time I got a Thompson Center Venture, and this is also chambered in the 300 Win Mag. It's guaranteed 1 MOA, so it's also very accurate. It's got a detachable box magazine. The trigger comes factory adjustable to 3.5 pounds, and I also topped it off with a Bushnell Engage scope. The Engage line is their new series. And this thing's very clear, I love it. It's got the turrets that lock, and then I can use those to adjust the windage and elevation while I'm shooting. And I also added my own little cheek piece here. I built it out of some PVC. But I tell you what, this thing is extremely accurate. I just love Thompson Center's rifles. I'm very happy with this purchase, and it didn't cost me a whole lot. After purchasing a new rifle and getting it sighted in, I like to begin developing some loads. And so after multiple trips to the range, I've kind of got my final set of targets here. And as you can see, after testing a whole bunch of different bullets and some different powders and different powder charges, I ended up here with a grouping that ended up being 0.621 inches. So it's well under 1 MOA, and that's a very, very tight group. It's only 3 shots, but I'm extremely satisfied with the grouping that rifle produced. Along with my 300 Win Mag, we also brought along my dad's 338 just as a backup. It's always a good idea when you go on a hunt to bring a backup rifle in case a scope gets knocked off, or it gets bumped, it gets dropped. Anything can really happen, and just to be prepared, we brought along an extra rifle. After a lot of anticipation and excitement, the elk season was finally upon us. The week had come, and it was a Thursday. Me and my dad headed out after school and headed west towards Colorado to meet up with my grandparents and spend some quality time with them. We got to bed early because the next morning we were going to be headed up the hill towards the mountain so we could start scouting and get our camp set up for the week. When we got up the next morning, we had a few-hour drive to get to the spot that we would be hunting. We planned to meet my cousin and my uncle up there on the hill, and so me, my dad, and my granddad all drove separate. But man, it was sure a beautiful drive. I love driving into the mountains because the closer that you get, the more and more the mountains come into view. And the mountains are absolutely beautiful. There's some nice snow caps up on the higher peaks, and it was just an absolutely gorgeous view driving in. Once we got off the paved roads, we had a little bit of a bumpy ride on the trails coming in. We had a trailer, and so we were trying to go pretty slow, making sure not to damage anything on our way in. But finally, we met up with my cousin and my uncle and started to get camp set up.
Doing all right there?
Yeah.
We no more than get the truck unloaded, and my dad has an accident. We started setting up the tent and getting all the poles out, and in the process of undoing a bungee cord, my dad got himself in the knuckers. We decided to set up camp in a different spot this year. In previous years, we had set up a little bit further away from the spot that we would be hunting, and so this time we decided to move a little bit closer, so that way first thing in the morning we would have a little bit of an easier drive, something that wasn't quite as long and quite as physically taxing. We got all the tents set up, four-wheelers unloaded, guns on the rack, backpacks ready, and then we had some dinner before we headed to bed.
Yep. Well, we had 3 or 4 awful good fishing trips to Jumbo.
Yep. Can you imagine how many fish got caught out of there this year?
Oh my.
I mean, there had to have been.
But look how many the under 17s that you catch if you turn back.
Well, guys, it's opening morning. We got a little over a half foot of snow on the ground. There's no moon showing, and it's a little bit colder than expected too, so the conditions are about perfect.
While eating some breakfast, we quickly discussed what our morning plans were. My granddad decided to stay a little bit lower and get acclimated, while me, my dad, my cousin, and my uncle all headed up the hill on four-wheelers, so that way we could hunt up higher. My uncle and my cousin like to walk a fence line that's on a ridge up there, and so that was their plan, while me and my dad planned to sit in some meadows and just kind of watch around some of the bigger meadows that morning and maybe do a little bit of walking too. But our main goal was just to kind of sit and see if anything would get spooked to us while they were walking that ridge line.
Opening morning, a little snow on the ground. Well, guys, it's October 21st, but got quite a bit of snow. It's kind of a first for us. We haven't had a lot of snow, at least I haven't anyways. I've been elk hunting, but I think it's gonna help. It's been pretty cold out, and I think the elk are gonna be up and moving today, so. We had about a 30-minute four-wheeler drive in, maybe closer to 20. Got parked and walked in the dark, and here we are. We got set up, and gonna wait for a little bit, and then maybe move on to another meadow.
After sitting in the big meadow for about an hour, me and my dad decided to head up the trail towards some other smaller meadows. The area that we hunt in has one big meadow linked with some other trails that kind of interconnect a whole bunch of different meadows. And so with that fence on the ridge line that I was telling you guys about, and all of the meadows combined, it's really hard to get lost in the area that we've been, especially since we've been hunting there for quite a few years. We all know the area very well, and using GPS if we get lost or mixed around a little bit, it's really hard to get lost in the area that we're at because we feel safe and secure with knowing where everything is at as we've been there for so long.
Well, we we just had some other hunters come through on a four-wheeler. It's about 8:30 in the morning, so it's a great idea just to drive through the middle of some meadows. And it's broad daylight, but it is what it is, so they're kind of headed the direction we were thinking about going, so we might change plans a little bit. My dad's just gonna sit there and wait a little bit. I'm gonna walk up into the timber here and get on the fence, walk that up, and there's another meadow that it leads to. So hopefully we'll see something. If I get a shot off, I probably won't get it on the film. Made it up to the fence here. You can see it running right along there, and got some tracks here from my uncle and cousin. They kind of like to walk this ridge up along the fence, and so hopefully won't get in their way, but I'm gonna walk up here a little ways and just keep heading up towards that meadow.
So the first morning was a bust. The moon phase was in our favor, the weather was cold, we had the snow on the ground, but it just didn't play out as planned.
Hey,
Hey,
we're on candid camera.
yeah,
We didn't have a whole lot of sign in the area. We didn't see any elk for the first morning, so after walking around and sitting in some meadows, we decided that we'd head back towards the four-wheelers and head back to camp for some lunch. So me and my cousin Patrick went and got the four-wheelers and picked up my dad and my uncle, and then we headed back down the trail towards the camp to meet up with my granddad and get a little bit to eat. After getting energized and fueled up from lunch, we headed back up the hill for some more hunting. My granddad stayed down low as he was still getting acclimated to the altitude, but the rest of us headed back up the hill for kind of the same plan we had in the morning. My cousin and my uncle continued to walk that ridge line while me and my dad sat in some different meadows than we had that morning, and we sat there for quite a while, still didn't see anything, but we waited it out till dark, hoping to see something. The next morning, we got up about the same time. Me and my dad decided to head to the meadow that we had sat in the night before. My uncle decided he was going to keep walking the fence line, but instead, my cousin, he decided to stay a little bit lower and check out some other meadows. We hadn't been seeing a whole lot of sign up there on top of the hill, and so my cousin decided that he might have a better chance trying something down a little bit lower. The meadow that me and my dad were sitting in was actually the meadow that I had the privilege of taking my first elk in, so we had high hopes for that area as we had been seeing some elk in previous years in that same area. After sitting there for a few hours and not seeing much, we decided to head back for some lunch.
No elk yet, but Devin's gonna shoot one tonight. Otherwise, he's gotta sleep out on the ground.
with Mr. Blanket.
After getting a few bites to eat, talking around a little bit, and just hanging out, we got some good news over the radio. We found out that my cousin had actually seen 2 elk that morning. He had seen a bull and a cow, and he got a chance to take a shot on the bull. And so he was just down lower, kind of stomping through the timber, trying to find a blood trail. And he wasn't having a whole lot of success, but he kept at it and kept looking for that blood trail. After a lot of hard work tracking, he finally found his elk. He marked it with the GPS and he headed to the closest meadow and notified us that he needed to be picked up. That way we could help him pack it out. Well guys, we just got word that my cousin shot an elk. He's gonna mark his location with the GPS and we're gonna head down that way towards him. So hopefully we can get on the elk and find him.
We're here.
Oh yeah, elk's probably about that way.
So where did you shoot the elk?
Way down there.
Below the big meadow?
Yep.
Okay.
It's like that little meadow. The big one ends down here, and then that littler one where I saw the moose last night.
See, that's what I thought, and these guys thought you shot him up here.
Well, that's where I started off walking. Then I got down to those meadows again, and I was just like, I better double check and see if I hit it. And I still didn't see any blood. And I walked back in these trees quite a ways, and I saw coyote footprints, and it was chasing a trail of blood. And so I started following it, and I followed because there was elk prints right next to it. So I was like, it was fairly close to where I shot, and then I followed the elk prints back to pretty close where I shot, and I still didn't see any blood, but pretty much immediately after I got back in the trees where there's some snow, the blood line started. So I followed it all around. And it was still alive. It got up on me twice and ran off. And then the last time, I think it finally had lost enough blood or something. It just kind of sat there, but it took me another 3 shots to kill it.
So it's dead.
Yeah. I marked it.
Well, let's go get it then. It's dead.
Dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
You shot him.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. And you found him.
I found him, yeah.
Boy, you're a magician.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah.
See what you said on the radio, we thought you saw him again, but he'd already jumped up and ran.
He did.
And you said you were going to mark the area and come back to camp, so we figured you left him alive there. Okay.
Well, he was still alive, and I was chasing him when I was talking to you guys.
Uh-huh.
And then he finally,
He was just down and...
he was just KO'd. I probably could have just left him there, but he still was trying to get up and run. So
Yeah.
I
Where did you shoot him at first time?
way
No,
down.
in the body.
Oh, right in the back hip.
So you hit a blood
hind
vessel
corner.
that...
Yeah.
Let
And I
him
was
out?
shooting at him when he was running away from me, and I thought I shot him in the butt, but I didn't hear a thud or anything.
Huh.
Well,
good deal.
very good.
He's a 6x6.
Really?
No kidding.
shit.
Yeah.
Very good.
The one on the right side's a little stubby one, but
Well, yeah.
I still count it.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's got some curvy things
As
to
long
it.
as the inch long, it counts.
So how far? So we need to go this way
Yeah.
on the trail.
Yeah.
We
so
can
that
get there
where
from
Devin.
here.
How far off the road is he?
I walked probably about 3/4 of a mile until I got to the meadow over here.
Okay.
And in the trees back there somewhere. And I crossed a dirt trail once at some point. It was over here. It was closer to where I shot him.
Well, if the coyotes are already on his blood trail, they're gonna.
Well, it was way back here. And they tailed up. I didn't see
Okay.
him.
Well, we need to get him this evening.
Yeah.
After discussing our plan of action, we quickly loaded up, got all of our game bags, knives, and saws ready. Me, my cousin, and my uncle all headed towards the elk to begin packing it out. Just a heads up before we get up on the elk, I wanted to make you guys aware that my cousin had already started gutting it. I'm sure you guys are all hunters and you're aware with what the innards of an elk or deer looks like, and so it won't be a big deal. But I just wanted to make you guys aware that the elk's guts will be hanging out when we get up on them. There she is.
Oh, half of its guts are. Alright, well, this guy right here, I shot in a meadow this morning, probably around 7:30. I didn't think I hit it, and so I went back to camp and had a cup of coffee and decided I should probably go check if there's a blood trail. And I still didn't see anything because there wasn't any snow where I shot it. And I started walking back to camp and I saw some coyote tracks, and there was a blood trail right along the coyote tracks, and so I followed the tracks back to where I shot it. And sure enough, I hit it in the hind quarter, I guess. It was a bad shot, but it was running away from me. So I tracked it a few miles throughout the mountain and finally found it a few hours later. I think it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon now, and got an elk. So
That's how big?
we got a little 6x6 here, pretty nice elk. Got a little nubbins on the back, but I count it, so.
Yeah, it's a 6.
my first elk.
After taking a few pictures and congratulating my cousin on getting his first elk, we quickly got the thing quartered. We were able to take all 4 quarters, the back straps and the inner loins, and really all of the meat that was worth saving. And we also took the head as my cousin wanted to do a European mount with the skull. We got everything loaded up into game bags and started heading back towards the 4-wheelers.
Happy hunters. Blood on our hands.
It really didn't take too long because we were only a few hundred yards into the woods, and so that made it easy to pack out. We were able to just make a few trips, taking a quarter at a time, and get everything loaded up on the 4-wheelers. That way we could get headed back to camp and get it cooled off. We were all extremely excited that my cousin had got to shoot his first elk. It was a successful trip as we had gotten something on the ground and we were going to be taking some meat home. So we were very excited about that. But just in case you were wondering, this show ain't over. We've still got 3 more tags to fill. So sit back and enjoy the ride. While my cousin, my uncle, and my granddad got the elk meat situated, me and my dad decided that we would head down a little ways towards where Patrick had shot his elk. And we were going to scout a little bit that evening. We went through a couple different meadows, walked a few trails, and stomped a little bit of timber to see if we could find an area that we really liked. We figured that trying something a little bit new and different would be a good change. We had been hunting hard up higher in the hills, and we just hadn't been seeing much sign. When we were walking around through the trees and everything, there weren't much for tracks, there wasn't any scat out there, and we hadn't seen much for rubs either. After trekking around for a little while and checking things out, we decided to get sat down for the evening. There was a really nice big open view of the area, and we had a 600-yard shot down to the far end, and so we were able to cover a lot of area at once. The meadow that we were sitting in was kind of down in the bottom of 2 different ridges on the left and right side, and so we figured that the elk would feel safe traveling through this meadow as they were crossing from ridge to ridge. In case you were wondering, we did not shoot any more elk on this trip. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video this far, but I'm going to continue showing you guys what we did over the next few days. We continued to hunt, we still had more tags to fill, and so we stuck with it and kept hunting, and we were able to capture a lot of really awesome footage, and so I hope you guys enjoy the next part of this video if you choose to continue watching. The next morning, we kind of stuck with the same game plan. We decided we would head down lower and kind of work through some of the meadows that we had been in the night before. And we got sat down, decided to wait for it to get a little bit lighter, that way we didn't spook anything as we were headed through the meadow. Once it was light enough, we headed back down the trail towards the meadow that we had been sitting in the night before. It was just a couple hundred yards down the trail, so we headed that way and sat till about 9 o'clock that morning. Although we really liked what we could see from that location, we figured there would be more openness and more areas to cover as we moved down the meadow. And so there were a couple more ground blinds that we kind of checked out, some wooden ground blinds that people had built in previous years. So as we kept moving down through the meadow, we started seeing more area that we hadn't before.
Here we are towards the end of our 3rd day's morning hunt. We're in a new little area that we haven't been in before. It's down below where Patrick shot his elk. Just a lot of good area around here. You can see behind me, there's a lot of willows up through here. And that's prime moose area. We've been seeing moose tracks on the trails. And Patrick saw a cow and a calf yesterday morning come running in and stopped and ate some of the willows. It's a great little place. Hillsides are real close. If anything spooked them, they'd be able to get back into safety really well. This particular hillside's got a lot of down timber and rocks, and it's just a short little ways up to the top, and then an elk could bed down in there during the day, and then if something came along the trail or spooked them, they've got access to just popping over the ridge and being completely gone, just in 10 steps. We're still optimistic. We've got one moose down, or one elk down, and hopefully we can get another elk or two before we get out of here and have to leave and go back home. Really good little aspen stand going up through this ravine that goes up to the meadow where we're going to hunt. We wanted to check this all out. It's all just aspen and a few willows down the middle.
Well, I think we found a pretty good spot here. A nice little hunting blind made out of wood that somebody built a few years ago. Got a trail going along this way. See about 50-60 yards or so. And then heading up behind us there, we got 200-yard shot going off to that side of the meadow, going up a hillside. And there's about a 500 or so yard shot that way. And up the hill where we were sitting this morning and last night, there's a roughly 700-yard shot. So we've got quite a bit of open area there. We've got a nice little trail. There's a little stream running along in the willows here. So it seems like a pretty good area and pretty promising. I think we're gonna try and sit here this evening and maybe even tomorrow morning.
After a lot of repeated walking and sitting, we decided that we would head back to camp and get a little bit to eat. It was already about noon and we were getting kind of hungry, so we headed back to meet up with the others.
Well, we used to eat these fairly often, going deer hunting or elk hunting or whatever. It's lunchtime.
That afternoon and evening, me and my dad headed back down to the meadow that we'd been sitting in that morning. We really liked the ground blind there that we had scouted out, and we figured that it would be a good spot to finish out the hunt. Once it got dark out, we returned back to camp and discussed with the others how much longer we would be staying. I had school to get back to because I had a lot of homework and a lot of stuff to make up, and the others had jobs to get back to, and so unfortunately, after all of the days spent hunting, we decided that finally we would head back home and return to our normal lives. The next morning we slept in for a little bit. We waited for it to get light enough so that we could start packing up. We all woke up and got some breakfast. We started tearing down the tents and rolling up our sleeping bags. We got everything loaded up in the truck and the trailer and got the ATVs loaded on, and then we headed that way back towards home. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Twisted Six Outdoors Chase and Tail. I really hope you guys enjoyed all the footage I was able to capture. I would really recommend that you guys go on an elk hunt if you have an opportunity. It was a really nice change up for me to go from Missouri hunting for deer to go to Colorado and elk hunt. Just a really different kind of hunt, and getting that mix up was really nice. And so if you guys have the opportunity, definitely do it. If you guys enjoyed our video, leave something down in the comments. Also, if you guys have something to recommend to us, we would really appreciate that. We're a fairly new channel, just getting started here, and so anything you guys would have to add would be great. Also, if you guys could hit that subscribe button, that'd be awesome. Follow us on our social media. We have an Instagram page at Twisted Six Outdoors. So if you guys could check that out, that'd be great too. Thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, live 20 feet closer to God.